why I told you guys, fuck those pussy ass bitches, and he is one of them. You're too fucking short to be this cocky.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. If you don't know who this be, it's your girl Kaya B coming at you with a new video. So today we're going to be talking about Love is Blind Season 10, Episodes 7 through 9. I have not did the 1 through 6, review, but, I am caught up to all these 9 episodes so far for Season 10. Season 10 was a bit of a wild, rocky ride. I believe 6 couples got engaged, 6 or 7 couples got engaged, but, if I do miss a couple, it is what it is. They go to Cabo, then one couple, which is Vic and Christine, they actually go to California. Very interesting, but, I think that was probably the best decision for them, to be quite honest. They get back from Cabo, and essentially, they're in their apartments, they're, essentially getting, seeing each other's places and how each other live. So, let's start with Bree and Connor. So, Bree sees Connor's place, and Connor's place is like, he had a Christmas tree up, he had a keg in his house. I think they even tried that he doesn't have a proper lock on his door. Like, all he has is a hook on his door. So she tried to show him okay, it's not really safe. You need to actually lock your door, because I don't think he locks his door. He just closes it and put a hook on top. So she was just like, yeah, you live in a frat house. So her house is a bit different. It's actually well put together, whatever. So that Amber, she has her daughter Emma, and obviously, she has her little house, for her and her daughter, and obviously showing Jordan around about the house. Jordan, he has his little place, and it is what it is. His little place is what it is. But Amber is willing to compromise, because the house that she brought was very much temporary. It was very cheap. She's willing to move and relocate if need be. Emma and Mike, really and truly, with the Emma and Mike situation, is all about kids, and we're gonna come back to that. Let's get back to this whole Jess and Chris situation, because in Cabo, Bree, for some reason, was like, oh, she wants the experience of meeting everybody who was in the pods together, to be some big impactful thing, oh my gosh, that was you, that was the person that was my second choice, da da da. She wanted some big thing, and she was so annoyed, or so upset with the fact that everybody came and was oh, hey, you're Bree, you're this, you're that, just cool, because I'm they have their own couples. They have their own couples to really focus on. They're with their person that they picked at the end of the day. So she was just feeling some type of way that, oh, Connor, and Emma didn't have this big old one-on-one chat. Her and Chris didn't have this big old one-on-one chat, because that was her number 2, whatever. So she felt some type of way, and then obviously she was oh, I need to have another round too, to have a chat with him, da da da. And Connor was just very much okay, I don't think it's that deep. So with that being said, we get to this whole Bree and Connor situation, where I think Bree, she kind of just looking at Connor is giving that he's not the one for her, because after she saw his house and that he's unorganized or doesn't have things organized or tidy or whatever, she started ragging on him. When they first met her mom, the mom was just oh, he has a keg in his house. First thing out her mouth, keg in the house, Christmas tree up, whatever. Didn't even let him leave the room for them to have that one-on-one chat, because later on she talks about oh, his tidiness, and she tells her mom about it, and her mom was just you know what, seeing if she really likes the relationship and how things are going, whatever. They were making food together, and she was still on him about cleaning and things like that, and she was this is baby steps or whatever, of him being clean and whatever. And it was just okay, Bree, I don't think Connor's the right guy for you, no shade, don't think so at all. Now with Chris and Jess, it seemed to be going well on Jess's end. They met, family members, whatever, but come into this episode 8, he starts to drop the ball. Chris later on had like a day apart or how many hours apart from Jess. Like she texted him and he was like, oh, he just, needs to speak with a friend or whatever. So in this conversation with Chris and Jess, he's like, you know what? He usually goes for girls that work out. He usually goes for girls that are like, fit, whatever, things like that. Then he later on in that same conversation was like, oh, he was kind of like interested in his number 2. Which is Brie. And he just like telling her this in this one conversation. So she's like listening and like hearing it. And it was just like, you're basically telling me you don't really like me or you're not really attracted to me because I don't work out. And that you're kind of like thinking like, oh, maybe I should have went with my second choice.
Like for me, like just to be totally honest and like without sounding like a fucking dickhead, I don't know how to say it. Like in the normal world, like I date people who like fucking do like fucking CrossFit and shit.
Mm-hmm. And you telling this to her, and you're like, oh well, we can try it and like keep it like maybe improve in the future. Just heard that, and she was just like, yeah, I don't know if I can't see you the same after this. So she was kind of done with the situation, but like Chris was waiting, like wanting her to like still try, and she was like, I'm not gonna force you to like my body or like me for who I am, whatever. Like I'm not gonna just be like, oh yes, please love me or whatever like that, which is correct. So she was like over the situation, but he wanted her to like, oh, still continue it because he wasn't done. Because he's like, oh, we got engaged for a reason, but you're still saying like, yeah, love is essentially not blind to you, but whatever. So they're done. Couple done. So moving on to Vic and Christine, we met Christine's family, or her mother really, and it was really lovely. It was a really lovely meeting. Like they prayed together, they talked together. It was really nice. Like Christine's mom really likes Vic for Christine. Also, later on they had a conversation basically about having kids, and the kids will be biracial, and essentially like, how would that be like, and obviously the knowledge and going to raising kids that are, of 2 races and things like that, of cultural backgrounds, and like, educating them on things like that, and like, what areas that you want them to be raised in, because obviously, a rural suburban family, or you want to be like in the city with like different cultures that you can actually get to know different people and things like that. So it was a really nice chat with Vic and Christine. Like they really seem like a very sweet couple. I feel like they could go the distance and actually get married and things like that. So really want to see the best for them and their couple, really. Like, I mean, I feel like them being apart from the rest of the cast was actually probably the saving grace, because it's just like the other cast is just messy. Let's talk about Brittany and Devontae. I was like, oh, there is 7 couples that got engaged. Brittany and Devontae. So in Cabo, Alex, he saw Brittany, and he was like, he noticed that Brittany and Devontae were having like a little issues. So he sat Brittany down, was like, you know what, like, this is like, he would typically go for a person that looks like her, and obviously like asking Brittany like, would Devontae be your typical type, things like that. Like Alex likes Brittany. Like he was trying to see like if there's a door open for him to like slide through and get with her, to be honest. And obviously because they're having these issues. So Brittany and Devontae is like, Devontae, he lost his grandfather. He seems very like distant at times, and like he doesn't like, affirm her with words of affirmation or physical touch, which are probably like Brittany's very top 2 love, like things of love. So she was like telling it to him. He like, I need a moment. I just don't want to be touched. Like he's basically saying himself that, Brittany is not a typical girl that he goes for. And it's just like, dude, you're a guy of color. Like, not even you're a guy of color. You're a person of color. Like you're giving like, with a name like Devontae. Yeah. So anyways, Brittany, she has a black father and a Latina mother. So she's black. So with that being said, he seemed like he doesn't really feel it. He doesn't feel it physically for, Brittany, and Brittany's not getting affirmed because he doesn't tell her like she's pretty, things like that. And she's just like, it's kind of hard trying to navigate with him, because it's like, she really likes him. She's trying to make it work, and it's just like, he's just distant. So after meeting Brittany's family, it seemed like, Devontae tried to open up a bit more. It seemed like, it was really like a lovely chat. Because Devontae and Brittany's father really asked Devontae, like, is there any things that, you have concerns or you're like unsure about, before going to the altar to say yes. Like, he asked the hard hitting question. Like, he, things like that, because like, if you feel wary, like, talk about them now, because don't wait till you get to the altar and say like, oh, don't waste people's time. Let Brittany know if you have an issue or not with her or things like that. With the Chris situation, he was just very much, he was honest, but it was just very much brutally honest, and it's like the way you say things or how you say things, so I'm like, he could have came a little bit differently with that, because he was saying like, oh, I'm trying to watch my words, but it was just so ridiculous that he was just like, oh, because you don't work out, and things like that, he just wasn't with. But like with Devontae, he needs to tell Brittany, like, if there's an issue in that relationship, they had a conversation on the couch, and he was like, you just need to like tell me in a conversation, and not just like, just these one things. And Brittany was like, she needs to work on some of things too, because like whatever past relationships that she has, she's probably bringing into this, engagement right now. Amber and Jordan, pretty good. Amber really likes Jordan, can see that Jordan can like help raise kids of her that's 7 years old. They met Amber's family, and they met Jordan's family, and it was a nice little meeting. They had probably the most fun. So there's that. Then there's Mike and Emma, and with Mike and Emma, they met Mike's family, and Mike's family was just like, oh, have you been with Italians? What's your ethnicity? Like, it was just a bit much between them two, but they came around and started being like understanding, to the point that this is probably why she doesn't want kids, because she doesn't want her kids to go through what she had to go through with their surgeries and things like that. And that's probably why she's on the fence with that. So they were kind of like, like, they couldn't work with it at first, but they understand like what she's been through. That's why she's on the fence with it, and she's still kind of open to the thing. Like, obviously he doesn't want kids in the future, so he's not going to pressure her into it, but he's kind of like hoping for her to be like, yes, I do want to have kids with him, and da. So with that being said, we'll see how that relationship goes, because later on when Emma's family comes in and they have a chat about it, like, Emma's sister, she basically was saying like, she had to redo life again. She would probably not have kids herself, even though she really loves her kids. They, I guess, one time in a point of life, Emma was very like firm on not having kids. So then now that she's like open to it, it's just like, oh, well, we're trying to like respect her wishes. But Emma's just saying like, no, she changed her mind. She's like willing to have kids, and like she's basically being open with her family, because I guess her family probably didn't even know, she was going through all these mental issues, because, her life was very much, she had a decent life. She didn't get bullied, as she says. So she was going through these mentally, insecurities that she has to work on, that she thinks like, she's different from other people and things like that. And like her racial and cultural ethnicity, was obviously different than the people that she's raised and grown with. Like, she doesn't have her identity, and her identity is rooted from her being adopted and her surgeries. So I don't know if they're gonna make it down the aisle, because that's gonna be a big thing to even get there. I mean, before, Mike had an issue with her organization, like, she was kind of not tidy, things like that, and he likes to be tidy and things like that. So we'll see how that goes with that. What we have is Alex and Ashley, and when Alex met Ashley's family, Ashley's father is a lawyer, so he was grilling him to the 9th degree, and he was like sifting him out. And he asked Alex if he would have voted for Trump, and he said he would have, but he didn't because he wasn't in town, which is like, okay, red flag. Next thing you know, grilling, the father was just like, honesty is not your strong suit, essentially. He had his like answers on lock, though. He answered every question. It was like, oh, this and that. Like, what's your degree? Like, he's a traveling nomad, whatever. And even the father was last thing that he said was like, Ashley doesn't have a good track record of picking the right guys. So he's just like, wait and see. So moving on to that, Alex and Ashley had a conversation, because he's like, oh, I don't want to be stuck in Cleveland. Like, how's your job? Let me get out of us. Like, get out of here, da. And like, he just like, he got a little job to do this instantly after coming back from Cabo. So he expects Ashley to have that like promotion, new job, and just Ashley's just like, we just got back here 2 days ago, like calm down, like nothing's gonna happen right then and there. And then they had like an argument about organization, and then they also have an argument about attractiveness, like, oh, he like one night he just left the room and didn't show up or whatever, and she was just like talking to him about it, and it was just like obviously he's not there with her, he's not there with her at all in that way. But he obviously is waiting for Brittany to like say, oh, ring ring Alex, really in this realistically. But that's what they're having issues. Alex, I don't know, he seemed like he's hiding from somebody, really, because I'm like, he's on the run from somebody, I don't know, but he's like, I need to get out of Cleveland ASAP, and then his timelines are not making sense. The math is not mathing at all, and it's just like, yeah, what are we talking about here? So then they meet up, all the people meet up, everybody meet the pods, whatever. So with Alex, he knowed Priyanka from the pods, and he was like, oh, I knew Priyanka from a Chicago friend group, but he didn't want to say nothing because he didn't want to ruin Priyanka's experience. So, but they know each other, they're friends, whatever. So that's the thing, because it's like, oh, another girl, because Ashley was grilling him about his like past relationships and things like that. So it's just like, oh, this person, that person, da. So then Bree comes up, and she was basically saying how Chris, basically DM'd her on Instagram. He started a new Instagram, DM'd her on Instagram. He was at a strip club, da. And like, he was like, oh yeah, that's all he sent. And she showed Connor. And she was telling the girls this, da. So all the girls are just like, they're very icked out by Chris. They're just like, I do not really mess with Chris. Amber was very vocalized with that.
That fucking gross ass bitch.
It's exactly it. I'm like, this is not, something's off. Something doesn't match.
Narcissistic fuck.
He literally told Connor he goes for 21 to 25 year olds. I was like, so she's 38. Like, what?
That she does not mess with Chris like that. She's ready to kick his teeth in. Verbatim, that's what she says. So Chris shows up, and Chris is like, he don't really care. He don't care. Like, he stands by what he said. Like, he's still trying to make a pass at Bree, very much so. He was telling Bree, Priyanka, and Ashley about, exactly what happened between him and Bree, trying to get the gist of it. And then they started talking about their physical situations, and Priyanka and Ashley left, while Bree still stand and still listen to the whole conversation and like ask questions about the situation. And Chris is basically saying like that was the worst experience he had in his life with Jess. Like, it wasn't good. He had it multiple times and just wasn't good. He asked Bree about her experiences, and she was just like, it wasn't the best, but it's all right. Like, it.
I just feel like if you guys aren't ready to get married, and I feel like you need someone who's going to be more dominant in your life and to help you, like, guide you and like show you places in my life. I want to do that with you. I swear to God. I even said to Jess, I was like, Bree is like a girl like I would go for in my normal world, and I was like, she's hot. The way she looks, the things she does. I'm just saying.
It was like, why are we talking about this? Like, why are we talking about this? Why are we entertaining this? Because, like, this guy really just made your friend feel bad, and now you're still entertaining him because obviously he's trying to make a pass at you, and you're engaged. So I'm like, where's the line? Where's the line, Bree? But with that being said, he's like talking. Everybody in there, like, he's talking mad loud. Jess is saying her piece, he's saying his piece. Like, none of the girls really mess with him like that. So it's just kind of like really awkward. Really awkward. We see Kia and Kevin show up. We don't have any conversations yet, but that might be in the next episodes. But it's giving messy. Like, when Christine was hearing what Jess said that Chris told her, she was just like, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. But this was episodes 7 through 9. I don't know how many couples are going to get in that kind of aisle, but I really think that Christine and Vic, might get down there. I don't know about Emma and Mike, because I don't know if they're going to get through this whole kid situation. And I don't know about no Brittany, Devontae, Alex and Ashley. That is, if they get married, that'll be shocker to me. Shocker. But this was episode 7 through 9 of Love is Blind. season 10. And if you guys like this video, like the video, comment down below your thoughts, comments, and concerns, and you subscribe to my channel, subscribe. Anyway, thank you guys for watching this video. Peace.